Good morning, YouTube. Excuse me. Good morning, YouTube, BookTube. This is Johnny. It is here in West Michigan. It is 8:12 in the morning. It is November the 27th, 2020. It is a Friday. So this is a Friday Reads. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm doing what I do every morning. I'm writing in my diary. I'm on page 1137 for the year 2020. And as far as Friday Reads, before I start making this video, I said to myself, well, I'm reading the same thing I mentioned in my last videos. I'm still reading it, as I have said in my previous over 1,000 videos. In the mornings, I read my Christian books for devotions, or it's just what I do because that what keeps me sane in this world. I woke up this morning, and I've said this in all my videos, I wake up with a sense of dread, and especially now that we're in the COVID-19 plague, the Red Death, and I just have anxiety issues. I'm always anxious, and but the day, as the day progresses, I get kind of better towards noon. But so in the mornings, it's just my habit, my way of life, my reading life, that I read Christian books. I not only in the morning, but I read them all the time. But I try to focus on divine realities in the mornings. I try to get my mind on spiritual things because the morning is my best time to read, because by noontime, after I get kind of sleepy. And so I'm reading, excuse me, Christ's Prayer Before His Passion, Expository Sermons on John 17, Volume 1 by Anthony Burgess. I'm on Sermon 41. In my last video, I read from Sermon 40. And I've been reading The First 100 Years of Christianity, Introduction to Its History, Literature, and Development by Schnelle. I read this yesterday. What I do is I read Anthony Burgess one morning, and then the next morning I read something more academic. Anthony Burgess was a 17th century English Puritan. This is a Puritan reprint, just came out just recently. And then I read Reformed Systematic Theology, Volume 2, Man in Christ, Joel R. Beeke and Paul M. Smalley. And I've been reading on Christology, on Christ's incarnation, which is something to read about because we're coming to Christmas, the Advent season, the birth of the Messiah. So reading about the incarnation of the Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And I got this in the mail this week. This is a commentary on the Psalms by Denis the Carthusian, who was a Carthusian monk, and he was born in 1402 and he died in 1471. And this is a volume 1 of a projected 6-volume translation out of the Latin of Dionysius' commentary on the Psalms. Dionysius, his works have been reprinted and gathered and collected in 45 volumes. And he wrote commentaries on every book of the Bible. And he wrote commentaries on the Summa by Thomas Aquinas, and just goes on and on and on. I showed you I have his spiritual writings in my study, collected, translated. But this is on the Psalms, so I've been reading this in the mornings and in the evenings. As far as the Bible, as I've been reading through the Bible, I'm in 1 Kings chapter 3. I finished 2 Samuel the other day, and now I am in 2 Kings, not 2 Kings, 1 Kings chapter 3, first book of the Kings, and read about King Solomon. And so yeah, that's what I've been reading as far as the Bible. I got something in my throat. Excuse me. Still reading The Price of Peace, Money, Democracy, and the Life of John Maynard Keynes, a biography by Zachary D. Carter. I'm kind of amazed I'm still reading this. I read this in the afternoons. I'm on page 249. I did mention I was getting books in the mail, and one of the books I got in the mail the other day was William Gaddis's The Recognitions. This is a reprint of a novel that Gaddis, this was copyrighted in 1955. I have another copy of Recognitions downstairs, but this is the new edition. This is the New York Review of Books. They also published just recently his novel J.R. So now I have both of these. I read Recognitions, and so I was thinking about rereading it, but as I was rereading it, it just was like, I just read it the other day, so I don't know if I'll continue, but so I got Recognitions in the mail by William Gaddis, introduction by Tom McCarthy. I have 4 novels by Tom McCarthy. One of them, I think, maybe 3 novels, a book of essays. He's a British intellectual writer, very experimental modernist. And then I got the last American Aristocrat, The Brilliant Life and Improbable Education of Henry Adams by David S. Brown. I have always been fascinated with Henry Adams, who wrote that very famous book, The Education of Henry Adams, and he wrote other works, American history. He wrote a novel called Democracy, and he's always kind of fascinated me. And I have a big Henry Adams collection of his writings, biographies, studies on Henry Adams. I read The Education of Henry Adams a couple of years ago, so I got this in the mail. David S. Brown also wrote a biography I have on Richard Hofstadter, an intellectual biography, who I've mentioned, who wrote that book on anti-intellectualism in America. So I got that. And then I got these 2 books from the Hamilton Books. People on BookTube been mentioning Hamilton Books. They sell books on discount or markdown. And every once in a while I go through I look at Hamilton Books and see what they have, and they've had 2 books I was really interested in because I am a student of American history, literary history, religious history, political, economic, things like that. And they had this book the culture of classicism, the ancient Greece and Rome and American intellectual life from 1780 to 1910 by Caroline Winner. When you read about 19th century America and the education, men had to know Latin and Greek, especially those who were trained in seminaries to be ministers. They had to know Latin and Greek. And because the Reformed literature, Calvinistic literature, was usually in Latin. So you had to know Latin, able to read Reformed literature. As I've shown in past videos, some of those Reformed Calvinistic theological works that were in Latin and were read in the 19th century and 17th, 16th century are now being translated into English, which I'm thankful for because I can't read Latin. So that's what this is about, the culture of classicism, ancient Greece and Rome, and American intellectual life, 1780 to 1910, by Caroline Winner. Caroline Winner. So I got that, and then I was reading a book recently about some writer or a modernist writer from Chicago. I can't remember right now what it. My mind just went blank, but it was about the early literary, artistic people and movements going on in early Chicago, like Sherman Anderson and just the whole artistic, literary movement and groups that were in Chicago, the turn of the century. You always think about New York City or Paris, but we often don't think of Chicago as being a center of early modernism when it comes to literature and art and music and things like that, architect and things like that. And so I came across this book in Hamilton's used books or discount books, markdown books, Chicago Renaissance Literature and Art in the Midwest Metropolis by Lezo Olson. So yeah, it's really interesting about the early modernist movement and how it, what was going on in Chicago. Talks about all these writers and thinkers, and also about the black artistic and literary movement going on in early Chicago, turn of the century. So Gertrude Stein, I think, visited there in Chicago when she was visiting America. So I got that. So that's the books I got in the mail. That's what I've been reading, Friday reads. And like I said, on the weekends we watch football. And last night was Thanksgiving. Yesterday we went down the street and had Thanksgiving with our son and his wife Emily and our two little granddaughters, Josie and Cora. Sadly, Emily's parents are sick with COVID, so they couldn't come. Yeah, we're hearing more and more of people we know getting COVID-19 and the Red Death. So we're just being very extra careful, trying to stay home and wear a mask when we go out, wash our hands, keep ourselves from getting in contact with this deadly virus. I have been reading also, I mentioned this is my little favorite devotional book by Lancelot Andrewes. He was born in 1555 and he died in 1629. He was an English bishop, was an exceptional scholar, and who strongly influenced the formation of a distinctive Anglican theology. He was selected in 1604 as one of the translators of the King James Bible. The Pentateuch and the historical books were largely his work. Andrews was particularly renowned for his sermons and was often to preach at court. His homilies continue to rank among the great Anglican classics. I also have another edition of Lancelot Andrews, his private devotions, in this little hardback. This is his Greek devotions, and this edition has his Latin devotions. He wrote these Greek devotions and Latin devotions for his own private prayer life, but they were found after his death and then they were translated. This is translated by Alexander White, his Greek devotions. And this edition was translated by John Mason Neal and edited by translated by John Henry Newman, which we all know about, and John Mason Neal. So I've been reading this also in the morning for devotions. Pick one up, they're really, really good. I'll close with Psalm 1, since that's what I was reading in Denis and the Carthusians. Psalm 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law does he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. So, I hope you are all well, that you're all not sick, that you had a good Thanksgiving, and do thank you for the comments, do thank you for the new subscribers, and hope you have a good weekend. And until next time, bye.